Welcome to the Dan Sports Tips NFL Daily Fantasy Show for DraftKings. We're looking at the games for week 1. I'm going to be looking at offensive and defensive stacks for this week. I'm going to be providing some insight on other players that can be used at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end and defense special teams positions. For anyone that hasn't had the opportunity to sign up and play daily fantasy sports for DraftKings yet, I will put a link in the description to the video down below that will enable you to do that today and get involved in the action on week 1. Offensive stacks this week. One of the ones I really like is quarterback Matthew Stafford for $7,200 and wide receiver Marvin Jones for $4,600 on the Detroit Lions. I think Marvin Jones is a very capable receiver, having come across from Cincinnati, with Golden Tate listed as questionable in a game that does project to likely be a shootout. The upside that the best player in the Colts secondary also will be out in Vontae Davis. 20% of the budget on this stack I don't think is too cheap. The Stafford to Jones combination could reap dividends. I remain unconvinced that the Lions will have success running the football as well, and the offense has got to move the ball somehow, and they were very effective since Jim Bob Cooter took the reins midway through last season. So I will be having Stafford to Marvin Jones as one of my stacks in my teams. I think going with quarterback Brock Osweiler for $6,300 to wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins for $8,800 on the Houston Texans as well. Chicago have done a lot of work on their run defense, which was quite frankly terrible last season with the addition of Danny Trevathan from Denver, Jarrell Freeman from Indianapolis. The secondary, however, remains a work in progress. We have to wonder how healthy starting cornerback Kyle Fuller is, whether or not he'll be up to full speed after being injured during the preseason. We know that receiver is more important in the stack, getting the point per reception, and obviously the quarterback only gets 4 points for the touchdown. Hopkins is the main threat in the Texans attack. There are very few cornerbacks in this league that are able to cover him, and none of them play for the Chicago Bears. Quarterback Russell Wilson for $7,900 and wide receiver Doug Baldwin for $6,600 on the Seattle Seahawks. Wilson is worth paying a little bit more for on the quarterback side because he does offer you the upside with the rushing using his legs. Towards the back end of last season, however, Wilson had an incredible run of games as the Seahawks did change their offensive strategy somewhat and did begin to air the ball out and throw it downfield a little bit more, with the reliable Baldwin the main beneficiary as the go-to guy in this offense and the number 1 receiver. Against the Dolphins, we will get to see just how effective this Seahawks lineup is because there's a lot of big names in that Dolphins front 7. Ultimately, I do expect the Seahawks to get the job done at home where they're always so good. And quarterback Tyrod Taylor for $6,900 and wide receiver Sammy Watkins for $6,900, both of the Buffalo Bills. Tyrod Taylor, T-Mobile emerged last year. He went to the Pro Bowl. That's an honour which has never been bestowed to the man he spent so many years backing up in Baltimore, Joe Flacco. Using his legs just like Wilson, he offers upside there. The outstanding rushing attack of Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy, sorry, momentary blank there, sets up the play action as well, and speeds to Sammy Watkins. Was unbelievable last year for a Rex Ryan team that actually finished in the top 10 offensively in the NFL. The Baltimore defense did play the run well last year, but were susceptible to the pass. There was a lack of a pass rush there. Poor players in the secondary as well. They don't look to have addressed this need in the off-season, so I would think that assuming Watkins' health, which is the main question mark on this stack, that could be quite a lucrative stack this week, though it does feel like the riskiest of the plays today. Another one for consideration, I'm not going to put it up though, is Blake Bortles, Allen Robinson. Obviously, they were the kings of garbage time last year for Jacksonville. That was effective so often in fantasy. And they're probably going to be throwing late against Green Bay this week. I'd rather take a look at the Packers defence for a week or two myself before I make my mind up on them. And if that means I'm going to miss this gravy train as it leaves the station this week, then that's fine with me. So be it. We'll live to fight another day. Defensive stacks. Running back Spencer Ware for $4,400 and the Kansas City Chiefs defence and special teams for $3,600. I'll start with the defence. I'm not as happy with the absence of Tamba Hali and Justin Houston. I'm trusting Eric Berry can at least be at reasonable effect having missed pre-season. He has beaten cancer already after all. I love the Chiefs special teams as Dave Toob is a genius on special teams, and the Chargers are in opposition this week and they've had some plain awful special teams plays throughout the recent years. And so there is potential for the special teams to score some big bonus points there. Obviously Spencer Ware is likely to be hugely owned this week with Jamal Charles not playing. I am of the school of thought that you almost have to use him, because if he does have a good game, you're handicapping yourself against such a large portion of this field. I wouldn't argue with a Christian Michael Seattle defensive stack either, but I'm not gonna post that as a defensive stat this week. Looking at the individual positions at quarterback, if you're going to pay up at quarterback this week, I think Drew Brees of New Orleans for 8,100 is the way to go. There's shootout potential in the Dome. If you think that the Raiders won't be too affected by the early start against what is an awful Saints defensive unit. I know the Raiders defence has some new blood to go with Khalil Mack, but Brees has got options at receiver, and you'd always trust him to put points on the board in a shootout, which does look like the likely outcome in this game. So I think if you're going to pay for a quarterback through top dollar, I think Drew Brees is your man. Looking at cheaper options, RG3 at Cleveland for 5,600. I think he offers plenty of upside as a mobile quarterback, maybe not as mobile as he used to be, but if we trust Hugh Jackson, who worked wonders to get the best out of Andy Dalton the last few years against a Philly unit that does have some solid defensive players with a lot of rookie receivers, I'd potentially stack him with Gary Barnage, maybe even receiving running back Duke Johnson if you fancy a more risky stack, but I think there may be points to be had here at what is a perfectly reasonable cost of 5,600, and Dak Prescott of Dallas for 5,000. Pre-season MVP Prescott will start against the New York Giants following the Romo injury, a bargain bin price. Do I expect him to air it out regularly? No, I don't. But the New Look Giants defence does still have some holes in it. The Cowboys will still have Jason Witten and Des Bryant as able targets. Ezekiel Elliott running behind that excellent offensive line will also ease pressure on the rookie. Now, we know that rookie quarterbacks on debut will always be a risk, but at a price of 5,000, it's certainly worth including him. I certainly prefer him to Carson Wentz, because at least Prescott has had plenty of reps. Running backs this week, Christian Michael of Seattle for 3,700, with Thomas Rawls still coming back from injury. Christian Michael, fresh off of a solid preseason, does look set for a solid day as the lead back in the offense that the last few years has run the ball more than any other team. That being said, despite their tendency to throw a little bit more at the back end of last season, this does look a very winnable game to start for the Seahawks at home in week 1, and the fourth quarter could see a heavy dose of Michael as the Hawks kill the clock. James White of New England for 3,600. He profiles as the most likely man to fill the Dion Lewis role in the offense for New England after Lewis required further surgery on his knee. We know that New England, when Tom Brady is at quarterback, loves to throw to running backs out of the backfield, particularly in the red zone. Assuming that Garoppolo follows that lead and does as Brady does, then with Gronkowski out for the game, White could have a very solid day against the excellent Cardinals defense and gain at a basement price. And Danny Woodhead of the San Diego Chargers for 5,000. Danny Woodhead is as reliable a back as you can find in the point per reception format. There is no reason to suspect that he will be any worse this season. Melvin Gordon obviously gets the first look at carries on early downs, but they used Woodhead a bunch in the red zone last year. He's very effective on third down, and if the Chargers do fall behind to the Chiefs, he'll obviously see a lot more of the field as well. The wide receivers I'll be looking at using this year, this week even. Brandin Cooks of New Orleans for 7,700, the number one receiver on a team that has a very, very good quarterback in a game that profiles as a shootout. Give me Cooks as a low floor, high ceiling play in week 1 at this price. Thank you very much. Willie Snead does also offer big play potential on the other side if you're looking to go a bit of a cheaper price. Eric Decker of the New York Jets for 6,600. One of the weaknesses in the excellent Bengals defense is coverage linebackers. They have an excellent looking pass rush, but this plays into the hands of Decker, who is likely to play some in the slot and has always been a reliable receiver on hot routes in the face of the rush as well. In a PPR format, he looks easily the best, if not the only play I would make on the Jets in the game against the Bengals. And Donte Moncrief of the Indianapolis Colts for 6,000. In a potential shootout, Moncrief is my target of choice on the Colts. I'm not sure that the offensive line will afford enough time for Andrew Luck to get to T.Y. Hilton, who will probably be larger owned deeper down the field. Moncrief will get his targets, which is always the first checkbox on the evidence of the preseason anyway, and the shorter routes we may find he leads the team on targets in this game. If he can break a big one, the more the better. Tight ends, Antonio Gates for 4,200. You just know that Philip Rivers is going to find the age-defying Gates. He will get his targets. Death, taxes, and Antonio Gates, the only certainties in life. Jordan Cameron for $3,000 with the Miami Dolphins. New head coach Adam Gase has run a system that has been very favourable to tight ends. Martellus Bennett in Chicago and Julius Thomas in Denver. Cameron profiles as an excellent target with height and some half-decent production behind him. Health has been an issue at times throughout the years, but it's week 1 and he's healthy. I would expect in a tough matchup against Seattle, where there will be pressure on the quarterback, that Tannehill will go to the tight end regularly and often, and when they have the ball. And finally, defense and special teams this week. Give me the Cleveland Browns for 2,300. They're going to get opportunities against a rookie quarterback in Carson Wentz, who has missed a large portion of his first preseason hurt. You know what we say about rookie quarterbacks. They are a risk, and Wentz looks like a big one to me this week. That is what I've got for you on Daily Fantasy NFL today. The best of luck in week 1. Please let me know in the comments who you'll be using in your lineups today. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I will be here every week throughout the season, and I will see you next week.